Welcome to the Wellness Abundance Podcast. I'm Melissa King, your podcast host, certified master health coach, certified personal trainer, and founder of Wellness Abundance Coaching. The purpose of this podcast is to share healthy lifestyle tips to empower you to design the abundant life you want and deserve. I'll chat with inspiring people who have built a strong foundation to build a life they love. I believe we all have the power within ourselves to create wellness abundance in all areas of our life. We simply need to find the courage within ourselves to take action. Our vision for this podcast is to help you create wellness abundance in your life with clarity, empowerment, and flexibility. Grab your favorite beverage and enjoy the episode. All right, welcome back to the Wellness Abundance Podcast. I am so excited about my guest today. So as everyone knows, here at Wellness Abundance Coaching, we're all about aging gracefully and really kind of working with your body rather than against it, because our bodies want us to be healthy. They want us to thrive. And there are ways that you can kind of mitigate some, I want to say, like aging symptoms, and I put that in quotes because you can mitigate them. And this really helps us embrace the aging process. So today I'm talking with my friend, Dr. Kristin Beierle, and she is the owner of Body Restoration in Newbury Park. I'm so excited to have you on today. I know before when we scheduled this, we had a laundry list of topics that we could talk about. And today we kind of, we settled on really like having proper posture and how to kind of mitigate any postural stress on your body to really just create that muscle balance. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to let Dr. Kristin introduce herself and just, if you can share whatever you want about yourself, your background, what you do at your wellness center, and then we'll just dive right in and you could share your expertise.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. I know that we were talking about this for a while, and I'm so excited because it is exciting when you get connected with somebody and you feel like there are 1,000 topics you could talk about, and there are areas where you can help each other's populations in the things that you know and understand about aging gracefully and the body and tone and whatnot. And so I'm really happy to be here. So thank you for inviting me onto your cast. And so I am a chiropractor, as you said. My specialty is actually a diversified technique. So when you meet chiropractors, there are a lot of different ways that we can adjust the body, right? And it's your body. So we need to find the tools that work for you, the way your body wants and can handle being moved. And we're also sometimes working around injuries. Sometimes we're working around restrictions and other things like that. So finding a practitioner who has a variety of techniques to utilize so that they can give you more individualized care is in my opinion, one of the things that's really valuable about when you're looking for a chiropractor. So I practice a diversified technique. That means I've got lots of tools in my belt. We can do what is the traditional manual chiropractic adjusting people associate with pops and cracks, feeling that adjustment. And we can go all the way to the other end of the spectrum and do things that are more passive, more tonal care, using blocks and wedges, other things like that are going to allow us to harness a little help from gravity so that we are not doing some of that more aggressive popping and cracking. And so sometimes it's a matter of comfort. People don't like to feel or hear that sound and sensation. Sometimes it's a matter of what we're working on. Disc injury doesn't necessarily enjoy being twisted on. And so we have different techniques we want to use in different cases. I specialize in pregnancy, prenatal, and perinatal care. So while we treat the whole family, my real specialty is in mamas and babies, getting babies out safely and working with families to prevent a lot of the postural stuff that we see build up in the adult population. But a lot of it is very connected. And some of the things we see happen to us over time, we can relate back to things that we might have been able to intervene on early in childhood and have better postural outcomes as adults as well.
Yeah, that's cool. That's, one of the reasons why I was so excited for you and I to connect is I honestly have never been the biggest fan of the traditional chiropractic practice. I personally have been adjusted once, and I did not like hearing the popping sound.
Hmm?
It made me very uncomfortable. And maybe
Yeah.
that was just because it was the first time, but I also, maybe also I don't have a full understanding about it, but I love the idea of that individualized plan, and
Absolutely.
treatment for everyone.
Yeah, it's not
So,
one size fits all. And frankly, there's a place for that adjusting if you are just a happy, healthy, active body. And that place is like the joint, right? And so like go
mhm,
do something like that if you are looking for just like run of the mill, where everyone's pretty much getting the same kind of care, that's fine. And I have patients who do want to be treated that way, but I find the majority don't. And
mhm,
you're in the minority, or like I find that you're not in the minority when you are apprehensive about having your neck adjusted, especially, right? That popping, cracking sound, that ability to relax and let somebody else control your head is challenging. And so if there's a moment where we're trying to adjust and someone is tense and holding, they're just going to be sore afterwards. It's going to strain the muscles we're trying to relieve, and it's not really going to improve anything for anybody.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. Great. So let's dive into our topic for today. Talk about
Totally.
posture. So, where do you think the best place to start is
Well, I
with this?
think that what is really interesting, just to dive real quick into some of the history of where we
Mhm,
get into some of our posture and how we can be intervening with our kiddos. Like right now, we're going to really tackle things that are happening for us in our adult bodies. But one of the major things that's happening that we're seeing a lot of in our kiddos that we know is going to impact our adult population as they grow up is forward head posture. So much of that is coming from our devices. So we're all here, we've got our phones, and we're here looking at things, right? So that head
mhm,
down, that forward head is not helping your neck. What happens is the upper body will follow. So if the head's going forward, the shoulders will roll forward. Once the shoulders have rolled forward, we've disengaged all the back muscles and we're going to have upper body rounding. And over time, that's going to lead to postural stress and it could lead to actual remodeling, reshaping of the bones. So when we're looking at that forward head posture and we're talking about kids, we're talking about screen time, we're talking about all that stuff, we're also talking about airway. And the interesting thing that we're seeing pop up for a lot of adults is that if we have a history of this forward head posture, chances are we're also mouth breathers and that the tongue is low
mhm,
and that we've learned to keep our head forward to open the airway so that we can breathe effectively. And so that is absolutely something that we're very focused on with our kiddos when it comes to myofunctional work in the face, the jaw, and orthodontics work. So that is how I really start when we're like, why is this important young? As we age, what's important to realize is that your bones remodel in response to stress. So if your posture is to put stress on the bones in this forward posture, you're going to start to actually lose vertebral height, right? So this is a tiny model of your spine. And you notice how each of these little segments is a nice square, right? They're nice and level on that top end plate and the bottom. You have this little squishy space in between. That's where your disc lives. And then we have these openings where the nerves come out, right? If your posture in the upper back is to always maintain your body forward in this folded position, we start to actually lose height in those vertebral bodies. They actually start to squish down into a wedge shape. They're no longer that nice bulky square. And so over time, those postural tensions can actually change the shape of your bones. And now you're not just dealing with a functional postural thing, you're dealing with a structural change. Now the spine wants to be curved forward, and you're going to have to work extra hard to bring things back into extension because the bony support isn't quite there. That also leaves us at a risk of other things over time, like compression fractures. And for our aging population, it used to be something that was much more commonly associated in women. but osteoporosis gets men
Mhm.
too. It is not a women's disease. And so it's also, I mean, disease in with respect of like it is so preventable.
Mhm.
Lifestyle will make a huge impact on your bone integrity. So when we look at why is that postural stress so important, we're not just looking at aches and pains, we're looking at the balance in the body, we're looking at the shape of the structure and how that could be getting impacted on your day-to-day activities.
Yeah, wow. This is all so fascinating to me because I feel like, yeah, so just kind of going back to where you started with the kids, I think about that because I grew up in the 80s and 90s. We didn't have cell phones. So we were not hunched over like this, staring at our phones. But one concern I do have for like my nephews, and nieces who are
Mhm.
young and have their phones is like, what what would you recommend? What recommendations do you give to parents and the kids themselves to kind of combat that slouching and the, leaning over and everything that you just talked about?
Totally. Um, One of the big things that really came to my attention, especially during the shutdowns, was where are people working? What is your work
Mm,
posture like, right? People that sit on their couches at home and do their homework or their work on a coffee table where now you're seated up and you're hunched, leaning to a low table. Same thing happens with a laptop, right? It's either ergonomic for your neck because you got it up here, but now you have to be up here to type, or it's ergonomic for your shoulders where you have your hands down typing near your lap, but now you're looking down at it this way. So there's a lot of that. One of the simple things you can do is get a desk set up or get yourself comfortably set up at a table where your workspace is at a level that you are now not working down on your lap and not having to lean into whatever you're reading. It's so hard to limit screen time. It's so hard.
mhm.
It's for me, I have littles and you just need that hour sometimes. You just need 30 minutes where they're not
Yeah.
bothering me. And what's the easiest way is to plug them in. And so
Yeah.
like I get it. It's so hard, but creating
Mhm.
a timer and really being on top of your screen controls and making sure that you're minimizing that time. It's not only going to improve their posture, it's going to improve their brain health. The screens are designed for dopamine responses, and even the learning programs are designed to like the screen celebrates when you learned something, you got the next level. All of that is great. It's educational, but it's still that screen-driven dopamine response that gears them into wanting to be on that device, but also new articles showing that it's leaving them predisposed to a higher risk of depression. Because they're
Mhm.
so used to this instant gratification, dopamine, and all that backlit screen response. So it's hard. It's hard. And even in our schools that they're like, hey, we use Lexia. That's cool. Oh, but it's still an hour a day that she's on a computer learning at school. And any school that's trying to be progressive is going to demonstrate that by adding more computers and making more automation.
Mm.
So that's also just the challenge of where you're choosing to educate. But getting your setup and doing some simple exercises to reverse your posture. So if you are a hairdresser, a dental hygienist, if you're somebody and your work is out here front and forward, your reverse posture needs to be doing exercises that pull back and row back and work the opposing muscles to the guys you're using all day. So for most people, for some of that posture reset, I recommend 3 basic pull downs. You can do them with a TheraBand. You could do them with a booty band. I like a TheraBand better because you can give yourself resistance tension rather than having to hold it wide and keep that isometric hold while you're working the muscles, or that like that outward tone while you're trying to do the movement. But doing a high to low pull down, so you're anchored up high, elbows are out wide in a goal pose position, and you're really going for like a shoulder shrug. I'll stand a little bit here. So you're
Mhm.
going for an action that should be more like shoulder shrugging down and back. And the movement from the arms is minimal. So you're not actually doing this massive overhead reach. It's more like
Mhm.
pulling together down and back from the muscles in between the shoulder blades. So that's our high to low row. Then we have our mid row, which is a similar concept. You're just doing it with the hands wide, palms facing the floor. We're not trying to end up with your thumbs into your armpits. We're keeping everything low, wide, and we're keeping that wrist in line with the elbow at a 90-degree bend as you pull back. Same thing when we come in for a tight, narrow row. Now you're going straight back alongside the belly button. So if you spent 1 minute doing the high, a minute doing wide, a minute doing narrow, and you were to do that at the end of your workday, that's what I call my posture reset series. The other thing for people that work on their computers, I suggest are micro breaks. They shouldn't interrupt your thought flow at all. It's 20 seconds to just stare away from your computer screen, hopefully 20 feet away, where you get to blink your eyes, relax your head, your neck, shake it out and get back to work, right? It's just a little moment to reset your posture. And if you can work that into your hour, like we say 20 minutes, or every 20 minutes, stare 20 feet into the distance for 20 seconds, the 20. Even if you did that once an hour, you would start to have better overall posture and tone.
That's cool. I love the 20. Every
Yeah.
20 minutes, stare 20 feet out for 20 seconds.
Yeah.
That is,
Just a little
that is,
reset.
yeah, that's also, I'm going to start implementing that. I do my best to, I mean, I work at a computer, between like 8 and 11-ish in the morning. And then 3 days a week, I go teach a fitness class. So that gets me out, up and away from the screen and moving and active. And then back 1:30, 2 o'clock, I'm back at my computer.
Yeah.
And I've been actually pretty good lately about getting up and just going for a short, like 2 to 3 minute walk, getting some sunshine, some fresh air and everything. But sometimes, like you said, sometimes I'm in the zone too with
Yeah.
my work. So I'm like, oh, I really should probably take a little break from the screen, but I'm in the zone. I want to keep moving forward with my workflow today. So that the 20, I really like that a lot.
Totally. And those moments when you're in the zone are the moments to really watch. What I love to recommend to people is if you have somebody around that can snap a picture of you at your workspace while you're engrossed in something, not when you know they're going to take your picture, because we all sit up tall and perfect for the picture. But when you're really working on something, when you're engrossed in something, you might find that you are leaned in, you have your head in a weird position, like you might be doing something and you're like, oh my God, okay, I needed that break. I needed to like take a second and step back. And so sometimes it's nice to have a coworker or somebody, if you're working at home, catch a profile pic of you so you can see what is your body habit when you're at your desk.
I love that idea. I go to a co-working space and I'm going to have one of my friends here do that. Because
Yeah.
I do catch myself, like I'm usually pretty good. There's a really, the table I work at, the desk I work at is actually a really good height. I feel really comfortable. I'm not staring too far down. But I do kind of catch myself like that, like
Mhm.
hunching over and really enthralled in something. So I'm going to have one of my friends here, yeah, snap a photo of me so I could be more aware of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
see what it looks like.
that's cool. Yeah, so you shared, three really great exercises three like variations of rows to really kind of counteract that hunching over. And if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of do a little bit deeper dive into just muscle balance,
Yeah.
to avoid muscle imbalance. Because for my workouts personally, when I program my workouts, it's all about like push and pull and making sure I have that muscular balance all over my body, upper body, core, legs, everything. And when I program the workouts for my fitness classes, I do the same thing. They're very functional movements that we do because I'm a big fan of just creating that muscle balance to avoid
Yeah.
injury in the now and in the future and all that. So if you wouldn't mind just going into that a little bit deeper.
Totally. What I see in a lot of people is muscle balance imbalance over time that leads to repetitive stress and how that can sometimes degrade the joints. And so especially when it comes to shoulders and hips, things like that, where that joint is supposed to be able to make a big circular range of motion. It's called circumduction. That's that normal range of motion. You get some people and they're like, oh, I'm fine, 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 fine. Oh, no, can't do that. I have to drop it and then do this weird thing. Well, that means that every time you're going through that range of motion and you're making that compensation for a weird movement, that we have one muscle that should be firing, maybe it's not. We have other muscles that should be relaxed, maybe they're holding. And that is going to contribute over time to stresses that degrade the joint integrity itself, because it's just not getting its normal range of motion, but also can lead to those muscles that are being overworn breaking down earlier. It can lead to impingement syndromes. Other areas that aren't supposed to strum over one another can lead to bursitis and other things like that. So when we look at these imbalances, we're not just looking for, what's going on right to left. We're looking at what's going on from the front of your body to the back of your body. Where are, like we talked about, those muscles in the back countering your strong pecs all day? And we have different built-in groups of muscles that are working as teams. And sometimes we can see stuff that's going on up in the brain by how a body is moving. So it's not just your joints, it's not just those muscles and how they're functioning. Sometimes we're looking at your actual, like, your motor cortex, what's going on behind the scenes, that one side isn't moving and not functioning the same way as another. Is this something that's a sign of something higher up, right? And that's where the actual chiropractic term subluxation comes from. It doesn't always just describe a joint that's out of alignment. It's describing a pattern of information from the body to the brain back down to the body that is not making a clear, accurate connection, and we're seeing aberrant movement or holding and restrictions as a result of it, right? So we look for that long-term stress. And in our aging population, when we see osteoarthritis in joints, oftentimes that's been the result of long-standing imbalances of maybe the inner thigh is stronger than the outer thigh muscles, and that causes you to walk always with that foot wanting to come in. But if you walk with that foot coming in, it's going to trip you when you're walking. So your body compensates by doing this extra leaning thing. And then the hip goes out, and we're like, oh, see, these are the connections that, why does knee pain, hip pain, back pain, why can they be related? It usually has to do with how it's going to impact the movement pattern and how we have imbalances brewing in the body. But the work that you do, where you are trying to do muscle isolation and you are focused on those postural movers and what's going on to really focus on balancing out the structure of the upper trunk and the upper body, is going to make such a huge impact on your nervous system, because right alongside of your spine runs the autonomic nervous system, right? So up in the cervical and the sacral areas is where we're going to find your parasympathetic nervous system. This is what people call the rest and digest, the heal and repair system. And then along through the thoracic spine and into just a little bit of the upper lumbars, now is where you have the sympathetic system. And this is the one that we attribute with stress response, right? So sometimes when we are doing things with our body, we might be either stimulating or shutting down even those autonomic pathways and impacting how not only the muscles and the body is functioning, but how the organs themselves, the deeper tissues and structures, are able to function themselves.
Wow. Yeah. That's, I didn't know all that about the thoracic spine. That's definitely new information to me. So that's really, yeah, that's fascinating to me. And I've always known this, about the body. And this is one of the things that fascinates me about studying the body and being in just the health and fitness industry, is that everything's connected. The brain, the joints, the muscles, and everything we do in our daily life, everything we eat, the way we rest, the way we manage stress, the way we move our body, it all impacts everything, our organs included. And I feel like there's a lot of people that don't really realize that it's all connected.
Totally.
So.
In chiropractic, we talk about the things that create an insult on the body, right? They call it the 3 T's. It's your thoughts, so stress, mental stresses, toxins, which are the unavoidable, air, water, what we eat, pollutants, right? And then traumas, like physical, actual traumas to the body. And then I like to just call it like the toxicity of modern living. Our lifestyles are changing so fast, we can't keep up. with the repercussions. We can't even follow a generation going through a new lifestyle to see what was the end result of doing things that way, because everything along the way is changing so rapidly. It's impossible to know what's the culprit here, right? It's probably a confluence of several things. But
Hmm.
when we look at health and we're like, we're getting better at so many things, and yet we're getting unhealthier. How are we getting
Hmm.
so good at so much complicated stuff, and yet we're so bad at ourselves? Like the one thing that you've got going for you. Like, it's your body,
Yeah.
it's you. And we have less and less, I feel like, personal awareness, and somehow I feel like we're getting more information but less understanding about how it all works. And you're like, how
Mm.
do we have so much knowledge now, but a lack of, like, people don't put it all together. It's not being conveyed to the public in a way that they're understanding their bodies, their health, like the impact that they can make and the impact that other things are making. And so yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at the whole system and to look
Mhm.
at all those areas where our bodies, our health is being negatively or you can positively impact your health, right?
Yeah, and I feel like that's one of the benefits of working with someone like you in this profession who will like you do a lot of educating, and on top of that you help your patients on an individual basis, figure out what works best for them and actually helping them to do it. Because I feel
Mhm.
like the internet is so saturated with information. You
Yeah.
know, as I get asked all the time when I tell someone what I do, oh, well, should I eat a vegan diet? Should I do paleo? Should I do carnivore? I don't know what to do. Like, there's so much information out there on the internet.
Yeah.
And that's one of the benefits of working with, someone like you, or me, who really kind of hone in on personalizing it, because with the internet, we're so much more knowledgeable these days. We have so
Mhm.
much more information at our fingertips, yet we're becoming unhealthier by like the minute.
Totally.
So,
Oh,
and
I think that it's also good to be doing things like this where we are creating hubs of people who are kind of looking out for the same goal, right? Creating these groups where we are all working with people and encouraging them to utilize these other services, these other providers, and it's more synergistic in that way. Because then there's a lot of that positive reinforcement. There is so much that I can't do it all by myself. Like, I can tell you that you need to go exercise, but I'm busy adjusting. I can't be the one exercising with you. That's where you do utilize the trainer. That's where you do get into the health coach, right? And so it's funny because everything in medicine, I feel like, has become very specialized, which is perfect for exactly that. When you're like, hey, you need this, go talk to this person. I
Mhm.
trust them. They're good. You're in good hands over here. But it's also hilarious because within our medical system, you watch so much stuff fall through the gaps because of
Yeah,
exactly that. Because they're so specialized, they're not looking at the whole picture. They're not thinking about the whole person. They are looking at their specialty. They're looking at one organ system. They're looking at one prescription, one pharmaceutical, whatever. And it's like so tunnel visioned that they're really missing the picture. And
yeah.
so it's been really lovely to find more of a group of practitioners that we're all trying to look at the big picture and communicating with one another when we're co-managing people. So it's not that only I know what I know. As long as I have permission to share that information with you, I can share and we can collaborate and have a more effective treatment plan moving forward, right? And so it's nice to find other individuals working on that same goal.
I agree with you 100%. And honestly, most of my clients that I work with, um, obviously, most people have like a primary physician that they work with, that they go to, and a lot of my clients also have a therapist that they're working with,
Yeah, totally.
in the mental health space. And but yeah, definitely having that team of health practitioners on your side, you know, And to also help look at the full picture, the full body. And because it's interesting, if you read about like the causes of heart disease, diabetes, um, other autoimmune issues, it everything is connected. A lot of them have similar symptoms, not always, but a lot of them have some of the same underlying symptoms and root causes of
Yeah.
what's going on. So that there should tell you that, maybe it's not just, um, that I'm eating too much saturated fat. Maybe there's other things involved with this whole heart disease or diabetes. Maybe I'm not just eating too much sugar. Maybe there's something else that we should, take a look at here. So,
Absolutely. Especially and that goes right back into like our modern lifestyles, who it's really hard to pinpoint when we have so much stuff out there. Is it the way we process our foods? Is it the stuff we spray on our foods? Is it the way we package our foods? You know what I mean? Like all of that. And so, um, you can really go down a rabbit's hole when you're trying to look for options to have better health outcomes, and especially when it comes to things like heart health and diabetes, and you're looking at these systems that are, if they're not functioning, neither are you. And how can we keep these systems healthy? And then sometimes people are doing something that they think is healthy and it's not healthy, and right, so there's that little bit that it can get really convoluted when you're really paying attention to things that you think might be impacting. Why is this becoming such a huge health epidemic? And in people that are also still trying to exercise and eat right, right? What's the culprit here when we're doing the right things and still having bad health outcomes? And you hear so much more about metabolic rigidity, and you're like, okay, everybody is trying intermittent fasting, or we're trying different diet protocols. We're trying to do all plant-based, all meat-based, all whatever based. And it's starts to seem to me that if that doesn't work and this doesn't work, right? These ends of the spectrum aren't working. There needs to be a middle ground.
mhm.
But finding that healthy middle ground can be so challenging, and you get conflicting information depending on who your practitioners are. So you can be working with a chiropractor, you could be working with a health coach, and then you might go tell your doctor what you're doing. And some docs are like, that's crazy. Why are you doing that? And then that person rethinks this whole plan that may or may not have actually been working for them, right? And like they might have been seeing results and they were like, well, my doctor was apprehensive. You're like, great. Great.
Yeah.
Now we have this disconnect, right? Like, so it's sometimes hard to keep it all connected and to find what really works for each individual. And it's not one size fits all. We're not all going to
Right.
respond to the same diet.
Yeah. I agree, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like also one thing that, and I don't know if you do this in your practice, but one thing that I do as a health coach with my clients is I do my best to encourage my clients to be their own advocate, with whoever it is. It doesn't matter if it's me, like they need to be their own advocate when they're working with me. If something that we discussed during a coaching session, like they want to do an experiment with XYZ eating style and it doesn't work for them. And I want them to tell me. And I try to do my best to encourage them to do the same with like their primary care physician. If you don't want to take
Absolutely.
that medication and you feel like there's probably a better solution for you, then you have every right to tell that physician, I do not want to do this right now. I understand you're recommending it, but I do not want to do this.
Yeah,
So I don't
absolutely.
know if you've experienced that in your practice at all.
Totally. I think especially in our mama and baby world, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that we have to bring moms back to a place of empowerment and be like, listen, we're going to get this kid out. It's going to be fine. You guys are going to be safe. It's going to be fine. It doesn't always have to go the way that you might be being told it's going to go, kind of thing, right? And so there's so much that I'm always encouraging people to be their own advocates. I like to try to arm people with some information where I'll just share like, hey, in my experience, if I had something like this going on, or somebody reported to me that they went to the urgent care with this was the experience they had, this was the outcome they had. And so if that's the route you're going, then let's go that route, go that way. But if you're thinking, I don't just want a muscle relaxer and a painkiller and be told to go on my way, then maybe that's not your outlet. And if
Mhm.
that's what you're getting from your healthcare provider, then you can tell them, I don't want this prescription. What's an alternative to this prescription? You just say it. And if they take
Mhm.
offense to it, you might need a new healthcare provider, right? Like
Yep.
it's a collaborative thing. We have autonomy. And yes, they have education and they're going to give you their best recommendations based on their education, but it's your body. At the end of the day, it's your body. And there are going to be times where you're going to do that little self check and be like, yeah, I think this is the right advice. And there might be times where you do that little self check and you're like, I don't, I don't think this is the right advice for me right now. And the more that people feel disconnected from that and they go on with the plan, despite that disconnect, I feel like that actually has worse outcomes. And
Mhm.
so there are studies that show people that go in for routine surgeries and whatever outcomes there are, and how people feel about their surgeon, how they feel about the procedure before going in, all of that stuff actually has a huge impact on how they heal and recover afterwards. And sometimes actually even impacts your risk of infection after a surgery. And so a lot of that goes into like, what is your brain telling your body to do? If your brain is like, this was wrong, high alert, right? You're going to have a different response to some intervention than if your brain is like, yes, this is what we needed. We're going to get systems back on board, right? And so I think that being an advocate, knowing what your options are is essential. And the more that I watch the drive towards a standardized medical system, and you know that they're making Kaiser and Medicare the model that they want to repeat as that standardized system. Um, in a system like that, you really do need to know your body, know your options, and be open and willing to say, I don't want to do that. What can we do instead? Or I feel a little apprehensive. Can I give it a go doing this my way for 3 months, for 6 months, for whatever, and come back and reassess? And then you tell me if I need that blood thinner or if I need that blood pressure medication or whatever, right? Because you can really get stuck in a pharmaceutical spiral where we've put one in and now we have side effects and we're going to counter that with this
Mhm.
new one. And now we have some other system. We're going to deal with that with this one. And all of a sudden we're back to like, wait, what happened to just not having a bunch of drugs in the system, right? Is there some way we can do this with less? Maybe not all of them, maybe none of them. Do we need them all? So these are the things that I feel majorly concerned with as I watch our state and our country really push towards that standardized system, because I feel like a lot of people will get lost in the gaps if they're not understanding their health, understanding their bodies, realizing that it's not always going to be like that one size fits all protocol, and that they have other options, they can get second opinions and all that. I feel like there can be some loss of that. And I worry about people that don't advocate for themselves.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with every single word that you just said. It's yeah, and it's a little scary. And one thing that I you know talk about a lot with my coaching clients is like really pay attention to your body. How what's your body telling you what to do? I feel like we just get on this autopilot
Mm-hmm.
and on autopilot with what we're doing to our body, what exercises we're doing, and what we're eating, how we're sleeping. People ask me like, what's the best workout to do? Well, that depends.
Yeah.
I can't answer that question without having a more in-depth conversation about you, your history, where you are now, and I don't know if you get that. I know you do, yeah, fitness classes with Legree Fitness at your wellness center, and it's not that simple. It's not that straightforward. Um, but I actually had someone recently, a fitness client I was working with, who just stopped in the middle of the workout, and I knew something was not right.
Mm,
And so we talked about it and just called it, stopped the workout, middle of the workout, and because he was just feeling this a lot of discomfort
hmm.
in his lower back. And I was acknowledging him for recognizing that and for
Yeah.
stopping, like literally mid, like little agility sprint. He stopped like mid sprint. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what's going on now? Are you
Yeah.
okay? And because I really wanted to emphasize with him, you should celebrate the fact that I know you're in pain, but you should celebrate the fact that you listened to your body and you stopped,
Yes.
because this could have been not good.
Yeah. And I
Um,
think sometimes that's a fight with ego, right? Like
yeah.
sometimes it's not only a matter of acknowledging that this is uncomfortable, it's an assessment of like, well, is this discomfort from exercise I should expect, or is this a different kind of discomfort that no, I do need to stop, right? And so I think that yeah, absolutely that kind of self-assessment and understanding like, do I back off? Do I slow down? Do I work through this? Can sometimes be a little internal struggle, especially for men, right? Especially for
Hmm.
the males
Hmm.
out there, right? And so
Yeah.
I get it. And competitive people, I don't want to quit. And if something's hard and I think, oh, I can just do 10 more seconds, there is that little like, was that 10 seconds beneficial or not? Right. But I do love that experience in chiropractic because I find that people who, especially if they've never been adjusted before, they have this experience of becoming aware of their bodies. And they'll come to me after a few months of care and they'll be like, hey, I feel like I can feel my shoulder is out. And I used to just be like, all over, everything's tight. I don't know, it all hurts. But now I feel like I can feel this is out. And I'm like, yes, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. It's great body awareness. And then other people
Yeah.
who have been getting chiropractic forever, and sometimes they'll come to me and they'll say, my sacrum's out. Like, okay, good for you. Right? Like
That,
we've identified the source. And so it is this really interesting experience. And the other thing that I think is really funny, especially for people who are totally new to body work, is that the brain really can only prioritize one major pain signal at a time. So if you have major low back pain barking at you all the time, it takes this priority signal. And then sometimes what people say, "Ah, we got the back pain under control, but now my neck is bothering me. What's
mm,
that? Why did that start?" And I always have to do an assessment like, well, is this because we're mobilizing stuff? Is this a new injury? Or is this actually something that's been sitting there in the background, but the brain just couldn't give it priority because this other pain signal was taking on priority? And once you clear out the major pain signal, then other signals get to come through. And people start to become aware of like, gosh, I didn't realize it, but my neck bothers me, right? I didn't notice till you touched it that that's sore there, right? That's that prioritization of your pain signal getting downgraded a little bit. And so I think that's also part of that more better body awareness that comes when we start doing alignment, balancing work, chiropractic care.
mhm,
And then you complement it. See, I get to work on the structure. That's my job. And we're hoping to optimize function. But when we're doing our exercises, when you're doing that other kinesthetic work, that's the function, right? These are the muscles
mhm,
that function against the structure. And we're hopefully always trying to decompress the structure by letting the muscles do more of the load. If the muscles are getting weak and we're losing integrity or we're deconditioning or losing tone, then we're going to have more and more impact on the joints. And that's what hurts. Muscle strains come and go. They heal easily. Those muscles have great blood supply, right? They're happy to heal and repair. So it's the joints that will take a little bit longer. And once you start getting into the ligaments and the tendons being injured, now you're dealing with structures that don't have a good blood supply. They take 6, 8, 12 weeks to recover sometimes. And if they never get an opportunity to actually fully recover, then we get this moment where everything gets a little better, compensating muscles take over. things that we do to guard and hold our postural habits take over, settle back in, and now we're back into status quo until all those little helpers are like, gosh, this really isn't my job. Can this guy get back on board? And they go out for a moment, and now we have a strain. And that's when people are having episodic injuries. Oftentimes it's that process of something irritated, the system's not quite balanced. It's going to do its hardest to compensate. Our bodies are brilliant at compensation. Our bodies
Mhm.
are always striving for balance. That includes your muscle structural, like body pressures balance, not just your internal temperature and your blood pressure and stuff like that. So when we're striving for that balance, then we're always going to be making these little compensations and changes. And if we were asking muscles to do a job that they can do, but that's not their best job, at some point, they run the risk of getting injured. And then we have an episode of pain or strain. Heaven forbid, it really goes out. And now we have loss of integrity of those tissues. And now we do have disc injuries. Now we do have that kind of stuff putting pressure on the nerves. But over time, we want to make sure that we don't allow bony change to be the thing putting that pressure on the nerve, because that's where you're into a space that we're not going to fix that with a lot of exercise. That might now be a situation that you're dealing with. The structure itself is different, and maybe surgery starts to become a better
Mhm.
option when we have actual bony change in the system.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I learned back in high school how important like muscle is to protect joints and ligaments and everything else. And it just really stuck with me because I had chronic knee joint pain when I was running track in high school and I was in a women's weight training class. I can't remember what the cause of it was, but I went to physical therapy with it, and the focus was to strengthen my muscles around my knee
Mhm.
joint. Just,
Yep.
I remember my physical therapist telling me, just keep these muscles strong, all surrounding your joints, and you'll be good.
Yeah.
So,
In a lot of cases, that's really all we can do is try to stabilize, right?
mhm,
And that knee pain probably came on from an imbalance, perhaps somewhere, like
mhm,
that situation where if the inner thighs are overtoned or the outer thighs are doing more of the workload, that's going to put pressure on the meniscus of the knees in an imbalanced way. And so sometimes, especially when we have loss of pelvic floor tone, we see a
mhm,
lot of collapsing into the midline. We see a lot of that low inner thigh tone. And then we see a lot more pressure on the inside, the medial knee, right? So we get a lot of that middle knee pain, aching there, because we just have more body weight coming in on the joints as we lose some of that tone there. And so it's definitely something that can lead to pain in the joints, can start the cause of it, but can also help fix and unwind it if we can rebalance those muscles and improve that whole gait pattern, how you're walking. Where do those feet, knees, and hips lie every time you take a step? And so, yeah,
yeah,
it's how fun how we
cool.
find our calling, right?
It is. Oh my gosh, it totally is interesting and like yeah, fun. Like you said, fun. Fun's a great word for that. Yeah, it's fun
Yeah,
how we find
we'll
our
go with
calling.
fun.
We kind of accidentally like fall into it. Um,
Totally.
yeah, that's actually where I really found my calling and then went in a different direction for over a decade and just finally came back to it. But yeah, it is fascinating that, an injury can, or a health issue can do that too. It kind of
Totally.
like you find a way to heal yourself through a more holistic way, more natural way. And you're like, wow, why doesn't everyone else know this? Like everyone should be doing this.
Yeah. And
So,
I think it's a little empowering, right? When you talk about like the
but
mental
yeah.
health involved around it, when you actively make a change in your life and you feel the benefit of it, right? Like you are the one that gets to feel good. You're the one that gets to feel better about what you see. You're the one that gets to have better movement, less pain, all of that. Like that's really empowering and it gives you just a sense of control that is something I feel like a lot of us not don't necessarily feel in our day-to-day lives like we have a lot of control over the things that are happening to us and around us. But when you realize that you are the master of your health, then it is empowering in a different way. And it really, I don't know, it makes you feel better
Yeah.
about what you're doing, your efforts. It's like, I mean, talk about a dopamine response. Like if I know I'm going to cook this healthy meal and I'm going to feel better when I eat it, and I'm not going to be bloated and not going to have whatever else going on because I ate a bunch of garbage of processed stuff, then it's like it makes it more fun to get in the kitchen, right? And so it's like all of life starts to fall in and you feel like you have control over a lot more. And that gives you the
Mhm.
energy and the vitality to see where else can I make positive impacts in my life? What else, what other things, active lifestyle changes can I make to carry on to make this better? Because I did this and it's working. So what else can I do and make that work better? And I think
Yeah.
that's hopefully what we're able to facilitate in the roles that we play in people's
Mhm.
lives.
Yeah. Help our patients and clients see, experience those small wins to
Totally.
increase their belief in their ability. And also that they have, obviously external tools are great. You have a lot of external tools that you can offer to your patients, but really just yeah, just uh, helping them see that they have the tools and resources within themselves, whether that be one of the tools may be to go reach out for help from a professional like yourself. So
Totally.
yeah. So awesome. Anything else you want to share before we kind of wrap up, Dr. Kristen?
Gosh, I mean, I feel like we could go all day. Like, give us a subject, we'll
Yeah.
nerd out on it. No, I think this was really, really fun. I really enjoy having opportunities to just talk and share information. Hopefully, it's useful information for your listeners and stuff that they can implement and take home and do and feel. And I'm here for any questions people have. If they have questions, they can reach us. I'm in our studio. Our wellness center is in Newbury Park. We're called Body Restoration Chiropractic, and I'm happy to be of service for anybody that has questions, concerns, or just wants to add on to the good work they're doing to have a more active, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So I have one last question to ask you that I ask everyone before we wrap up. I know we're coming close on time, but when you hear the words wellness abundance, what do you think of?
Cool. Wellness abundance. It's funny. What I immediately think of is like a big, busy farmer's market full of colorful fruits and vegetables, to be fair. That
Oh,
was my imagery that popped into my head. Yeah, no, I feel like, yeah, wellness abundance is I think something that we all strive for in our lives is to have more longevity, more health, more vibrant experiences, more happiness, and to be able to do it longer because I don't want to live to be 100 if I'm going to spend my last 20 years in a wheelchair.
mhm.
Let's be real. I want to be a healthy functioning adult as long as I can be, possibly. And for
Yeah,
me, I feel like wellness abundance encompasses that thought, that goal of like, if we're going to live that long, let's hopefully be healthy as long as we're going to live as much as we can. Take it with us.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I'm with you. If you got to put me in a nursing home and my mind's not there, I don't know who you are. Then just I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
out. I'll see you
Yeah.
on the other side.
Totally.
But
My dad has
yeah,
some joke. He says, "Take me out to the ocean, call the newscasters. We're going to do this trebuchet. You set me in this little thing and you fling me out into the ocean." He goes, "If I don't know who you are and I can't take care of my own bodily functions, I'm out." It's like,
yeah,
fair enough, Dad. You're going to have to ask one of your other kids to do that for you.
yeah.
Yeah, it is absolutely something to think about because we are living longer. We
Mhm.
haven't retired later. And so our finances and our plans have to support us into older
Yeah.
age. And a lot of people may or may not really have thought like concerned themselves with planning. What happens if you get to that age and you're sick and you're going to spend 10 or 15 viable years actually needing healthcare and having health expenses and not feeling well. And so really planning ahead and making sure that you've done everything you can do.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great note to end on, because really, yeah, just doing the work now rather than later is,
Absolutely. It's
yeah, definitely much.
prevention. This is real
It's,
prevention,
yeah,
right? It's not
yes,
early detection. This is really preventative lifestyle behavior.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
all right, Dr. Kristen, I'm so excited. This was such a fun conversation, and we'll definitely do more of these in the future
I
because
would love to.
it's been so much fun, and there's so much we could talk about. So,
I'm here for it.
I'll
Thank you for having me.
thank you for being here, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Sounds good.
The Wellness Abundance podcast is sponsored by Wellness Abundance Coaching. At Wellness Abundance Coaching, we help women lose weight effortlessly and minimize anxiety with clarity, empowerment, and flexibility. We offer one-on-one and group health coaching, corporate wellness programs, and on-demand fitness videos. To learn more about how we can help you become the healthiest version of yourself and to schedule a time to chat with us, visit melissaking.net.